video. We got good audio out of it and everything. And so it's live now on YouTube and podcast and in our blog on the website and all that stuff. So
It's good.
you look comfy at home today. I like your office.
Yeah, thanks.
You have the green equivalent of our blue.
Mm-hmm.
It's is it a magnolia color like the Chip and Joanna's? Ours is.
Yeah, probably because Kinsey just chose it one day because I built all this.
Yeah.
And she just painted it one day. And I was like, well, I guess that's what we're doing. So
I think ours is Chip and Joanna paint, but ours is Tennessee blue, literally the same color that's in the flag.
Yep.
So I like it's a good color though.
She painted the walls first, and then obviously I had to do all the wood and all that stuff. So
yeah, maybe we're gonna have a color change here soon.
I don't know.
So hey, I got a question for you.
What's that?
Where do pirates get their hooks? Where do they shop for their hooks? You know this one? Oh, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie.
I don't.
No?
Tell me.
The secondhand store. Well, you know you're going to roll that out with the kids tonight.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey guys, Aaron Cochran, by Tennessee Dirt team lead. I am here again with Bryan Johnson, our preferred vendor, our preferred lender with Primis Mortgage. We wanted to break down some walls for you guys today, as we do every day. And we wanted to talk about what it's like to become a first-time home buyer. And from the time that you're sitting on the couch going, hey, I'm tired of renting this place. Hey, I'm tired of living with my mom. Whatever your situation is, and how we can give you the step-by-step process to make your life better and get you into home ownership. We're going to talk about the real estate side of stuff. Bryan and I like to break it down into I sell the real estate, Bryan sells the money. So, and we're going to help find those things for you. And Cassandra and I and our team will help you find the land or the home or whatever it is. And Bryan's going to help find somebody to finance you. So it's a good thing. Bryan, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to another good conversation.
So
it's going to be fun.
There's a lot of misconceptions that people have, and a lot of people, it's the hardest thing that we talk about in any project is, where do I start? So I talked about sitting on the couch and having that epiphany. A lot of them happen, 10, 11 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, wake up and then go, gosh, I just need something better. And, we can even talk about some scenarios that I've had happen today. It just, where do I start? And the first thing that you need to do is, pick up the phone. And if you don't, and call a realtor. If you don't have a realtor, there's great sites and sources out there. Cassandra and I, our team, we'd love to be your realtor. But if you don't have us in your area, go on Zillow, go on those things. They will connect you. So how those systems work, and Bryan will attest to this, they'll connect you with lenders. They'll connect you with realtors. The realtors and lenders, they're paying for leads out of those sources. So Zillow's not there just to post houses. They post these houses for realtors, and they pull that information from a local MLS, which is a multiple listing service, where us as realtors will go post that information. And so when you put your information in there, fair warning, Cassandra will talk about it all the time. Think before you click. Your phone's about to blow up. And now it's your time to start interviewing. And that's one reason that we do these videos, is to help you guys get insight into who we are as agents, who we are as lenders, and all that type of stuff. So any good agent worth their weight is going to have people in place, like we have Bryan in place, and you can use whoever you want, but we have people that we've vetted that do an amazing level of service. So when you talk to an agent, you're going to interview them and find out their best qualities and how they're going to best represent you and where they should start. And they should be explaining the same thing that I'm explaining to you right now. But once you establish that, your very next step is you need to get approved, because there's no sense in going out here and looking at houses, because everybody goes, oh, I want to go look at houses. I want to go find something. And next thing you know, we're showing you houses that you can't afford, but we're also ruling out houses that you think you couldn't afford. Mm-hmm. So, and there's no sense in doing that. So let's not get your hopes up. Let's find out what it is. And we get you over to Bryan. We set up a lending call. And Bryan, where do we go from a lending call? How scary is this lending call?
Oh man, it's going to be scary. No. And I love your energy too, because I try to bring this just an energy that's, I guess, calming, and I just want people to take a deep breath and go, look, this is not this super buttoned up. I mean, I'm in a hoodie right now,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be this buttoned up, scary process. And just because you're getting on the phone with me or Aaron and his team doesn't mean you're buying and you just locked in thousands of dollars. No, it's just a conversation. So we're just two people having a conversation. We just happen to know a lot about real estate, happen to know a lot about the lending financing side,
Yep.
and just release those expectations, and just know that, number one, and I try to remind everyone, look, we love what we do. I love having these conversations. Aaron and his team loves having these conversations. If you buy tomorrow, that's awesome. If we have these conversations and you buy 2 years from now, that's also awesome. Like, it doesn't
Hmm.
that doesn't matter when things happen. Like, you have to have these conversations though, because some people feel bad. Like, well, I don't know when I'm going to buy. That's fine. Let's just
Yeah.
have the conversation.
They always think they're hassling us or that they're inconveniencing us, and that's not totally not the case.
Right.
Half the
Yep.
battle is getting there, right? It's the road
hmm
to homeownership.
I mean, imagine a doctor. I mean, imagine you have an ailment, and you're just going to Wikipedia it to death and
I know those people.
talk at home. Yeah, you're just going to talk at home about it. I mean, at some point, you have to go have a conversation
Right.
with a professional
Yeah, and there
to
are
really
tools out
start
there. Yeah, there's tools
to
out
get
there.
some.
You can get an idea. Hey, what's a
Right,
$500,000 house going to cost me?
right,
Um, that that calculator that you're going to find online is not going to tell you if you can have a $500,000 house. It's just going to tell you what it would cost you
exactly.
if you guess a prime interest rate.
hmm
So
Yep.
they're hopping on a lending call with you. They've talked with me. They've got something scheduled, and like for example, like this evening, you have a later call scheduled with a client because she gets off work. So just working those in. You don't work banking hours, but you try to accommodate between that and family and have a good work life balance. What's that call going to look like for this client this evening?
Yeah. So this one's going to be at 8 p.m. This would be what I call a discovery call. So I have
Mhm.
different calls. That's just what I call it
We could put
because
a
we haven't
we
had a
could put a
phone call
dictionary
yet.
together with Brian's verbiage sometimes.
Yeah, I just, that's just what I call it. But it's a good description of what's going to happen. We haven't had a call yet.
Yeah.
Aaron and his team has had a call with her. They've had some good conversations. She knows about me. I've already texted her. We've had some back and forth. So we're going to just jump on the phone. Now, we're not going to just immediately imagine a doctor. You walk in immediately and they just, here's your x-rays, here we're diving in. No, we're going to have a conversation. So discovery call for me can be 5 minutes, it can be 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It's just, hey, I'm Brian, good to meet you. Tell me about your goals.
Hmm.
Tell me, obviously you want to buy a house, but tell me a little bit more about that. How did you get here? What are you looking for? Just where are you coming from? Because I do want to just get to know them, but also I just want to hear them speak out some of what's important to them and maybe uncover some of their pain points. And then obviously, sometimes I'll take a manual app as well on those calls,
Hmm.
if they don't want to fill out the application online.
It's super
But it's just
convenient that way.
yeah, it's just a brief conversation, getting to know each other, getting to hear uh, what they have going on, and then we can answer some initial questions. Send them the application link or pull a manual app, and then that next call is where I tell them we really get into the numbers and really unpack everything. We have your credit report in front of us,
Yeah.
and that's where we take it a step further. But that first call is just a simple intro, just to connect and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I always tell clients when we have them on the phone, when we're helping set them up for the next phase in the home buying process. Um, I always talk about you and your team and how you're going to hop on the phone with Brian, and just go through the interview process. And Brian's very much like Cassandra and the rest of our team, and we try to be very informative we try to give you options, we try to ask questions. We're not here to sell you anything. We're not going to convince you to spend $500,000. Like that doesn't like
Mm.
that's shady. Like it's sleazy. Sorry, that's the term I want. It's even worse than shady. It's sleazy. Um, so it's very informative. Ask all the questions you want, and go from there. You talked about taking a manual application over the phone. What does that look like? What's the basic information would somebody need to have in order to take a manual application over the phone?
Yeah, I mean, I try to get as much as possible, but really name, address, social. There's some basics there that you need in order to pull credit. But I try to get a lot more than that. What does work look like? Oh, you own a business? Okay, tell me more about that. How long
Hmm.
have you owned the business? Do you have those tax returns? So depending on how they're paid, I just keep digging into it further and further.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there's not a lot I need to just initially do a credit pull, and we do soft credit pulls, so we can just do a simple soft touch, and I still get all three credit bureaus. So it's very informative, doesn't cost anything. That's why I tell everyone, look, you're not locking yourself in. It doesn't cost anything, but we get to see your credit report. So we get to see under the hood, if you will,
Yeah.
and that's going to tell us a lot. It's going to tell us exactly where you're at. It's going to tell us maybe what we can do while we start looking, or what we can do, what we need to do before we can start looking.
Hmm.
And so the sooner you can have that conversation, the better, for many reasons.
So I noticed you didn't say you didn't say accept or deny in that at all. It was, what do we need to do first before we start
Mhm,
looking, or what do we need to do? Where do we start looking? So it's
mhm,
it's always about a how. And if you've got a
mhm,
good lender, and trust me, I've come across plenty of them lately, Brian, where I've had clients calling
mhm,
me and have said, I've talked to so and so and they never called me back and all this stuff. And I talked with so and so's lender and I can't get a hold of them, or they don't want to get my price point's too low. They just don't want to fool with me. And you and I have talked about it as
mhm,
well. It's granted, it's everybody needs lending, everybody needs assistance somewhere. Um, but it's those people that are it's usually the people that are most terrified about real estate. And that's one reason we're doing this video, that need the most help, that we enjoy helping the most because um, maybe they appreciate it more. I don't know. But I think they need us to
mhm,
help them through that because we have a certain set of skills. We can go into
mhm.
like movie quotes with Taken and stuff like that and see
Yeah,
where we go. I have a certain set of skills and I know how to find you. Um,
I think a lot of I think a lot of professionals in this industry still, would like to have, I guess, whatever you would deem an easy
a,
client or
a
file.
layup, a slam dunk out of the
Yeah, layup.
verbiage dictionary here.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But
yeah,
yeah,
so
go ahead.
so people talk about pre-approvals and pre-qualifications. Is there a difference? What do you issue? What is the are they different things or just the same word for something different? Sort of the same thing.
I mean, technically, it could be about the same thing, but a pre-qual for me is anything from discovery call to maybe I do have their application, but no documentation. So for me, a pre-approval, I typically do not like to issue that pre-approval letter, meaning an offer is being submitted. I
Right.
typically do not like to do that unless obviously you have an application and credit pull, but you have the supporting documentation and the income docs, and you have run that file through the AUS, automated underwriting system.
Hmm.
And sometimes, depending on the situation, I've roped in an underwriter and have started the underwriting process preliminary, in a preliminary way, just to stay ahead of more complex. Maybe they own a business or things like that. So that's what a pre-approval looks like. Where a pre-qual, none of that has happened. I probably don't even have income docs. And hypothetically speaking, or just based on what you're telling me, we look good, and it's probably going to look like this. However, let's go ahead and get these documents,
Hmm.
so I can verify all of that. So
Yeah. When we have a listing, so many people try to bring us pre-qual letters instead of pre-approval letters, and I try to explain to them it's not the same thing. And our team has a really good track record. If we write an offer and we get it accepted, we hit the finish line. And I think that's
mhm.
both good to have that representation, or that the representation, not representation, the what's the term I'm looking for? Why can't I think?
Reputation.
Reputation. Hey, thanks, Brian.
You're close.
I don't know. Tongue stopped working today. Um,
Right.
to having that
You're adding
reputation.
extra. You're adding syllables to that,
Yeah,
but
that's been me all day, man. But having that reputation for, getting to the finish line, both with clients and with other agents, so that they know when we're writing an offer and we're asking for maybe more than we should be. Maybe we have a client that needs a little extra closing cost or whatever, different terms that they know, okay, yeah, well, I know that, the Buy Tennessee Dirt team that what they're bringing me is solid and we're not going to have issues down the line. So let's go ahead and just accept this. Um, because it's an emotional situation. I mean, start to finish
Mhm.
from the time you're sitting on the couch to the time you're sitting on your couch in your own living room is a
Mhm.
game changer. And you're going to ride an emotional roller coaster if you don't have the right representation. And so many lenders out there, one reason we've chosen Bryan to represent us and our team is because of that pre-qualification and his due diligence that he puts into making sure that we have a solid transaction to go forward, that he's not telling people to just go out there. Cause I get letters all the time. Hey, well, how did you, what information have you provided your lender to get this letter for me? Well, I just told him that I make X number of dollars and my credit score is X. And he just said, I think we should be able to rock and roll. And I go, that's terrifying. So it's like handing
Mhm.
somebody a driver's license just because they're of age. Here you go.
Yeah.
You should know this by now, right?
It's like your foot can physically reach the gas pedal,
Right.
so here's your license.
100%. It's not that it's just so okay, so they've had a discovery call with you and now they're pre-approved. They've submitted their pay stubs and or W-2s or whatever and
Mhm.
they've got a pre-approval, not a pre-qualification, but a pre-approval. And so where does that go? Where are you sending them at that point?
Yeah, so it's clear, and you do a good job of this as well. It's like, look, we can't do anything until you are pre-approved and we have the thumbs up from the lender. And then I make it clear too, like once we are fully pre-approved, because I am very outspoken when I go, hey, look, you're pre-approved, you're ready to go. I'm not that outspoken. I don't just go, you're denied. Like that's where
Yeah.
I don't like that negativity around that. I like to provide solutions. But anyways, when they're pre-approved, it's look, hey, you're pre-approved. You get back with Aaron and his team. Y'all go look at houses. I'm going to be on the sidelines a little bit, if you will, but text me, and I tell everyone this, like text me every single address if you want. Every house that you like, text me the address. I'll run the specific numbers for it. Because I know I'm probably more involved than some when
Oh,
it
I
comes
would
to the
attest to
numbers.
that 100%.
Yeah, just when it comes to the numbers and strategy, and for some it matters, and we have geez, flip my pen out here. But for some it matters, and we have to be really on top of the numbers, or else. So Aaron and I and his team are always in communication. Like, okay, we like this house. These I just ran the closing costs. I just ran this is where we're at. This is how you need to do the offer, da 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 da.
Yep.
But also just the peace of mind with the buyers. I just think they like knowing that I'm even just one text away, because I'm that type of person. I need some real numbers. Not everyone is worried about that monthly payment moving $100 $200, but for some it matters, and that's okay. So they
Yeah.
text me, and I provide that specific number. And I also just want I want to continue to communicate with them, and that's another reason for me to get to communicate with them
Yeah.
and provide hopefully real time value.
Well, and we were even doing that today when Cassandra was out showing clients, and we kind of try to bridge that gap a little bit. We try not to put it back on the client to make sure, hey, make sure you're talking to your lender. Like we're bridging those gaps, and as they're moving through homes and stuff like that, you and I wasn't even there. I was in the office, and Cassandra was showing houses, and I'm sending you based upon her feedback from the clients. Hey, what would this look like? What's the difference on this? What do you think where we need to be? Can we adjust
Mhm,
it? Do we have to go FHA? Can we go conventional? This home, I don't think is going to conform to that. We're having those
mhm,
conversations so that we can help them make their decision. The difference is we talked about selling versus assisting and solving problems, both in this video and other videos. If I'm spending all my time trying to sell you something,
mhm,
I have less time available to help you with the problem
mhm,
because I'm trying to navigate how do I coerce you into doing something that you don't want to do versus can I
mhm,
supply you with the tools and the education that you need to do. So we've got a pre-approval. We're out. We're showing houses. We're looking at homes within that price range. We're sending you homes as ones that we go, hey, what would this look like on paper? We're penciling that back and
mhm.
forth. Um, Probably in the interim, they're submitting supporting documents and things like that to you, Bryan, as they're
Yeah,
going
typically
through.
they would have already done that. Well, if they haven't submitted an offer yet, sometimes there's some lingering documents. And if they want to submit an offer and there's still a lingering document, I get on the phone and say, hey, I really need this
Yeah.
just to make sure. But typically, all that is already in. But again, I want to point out what's so important because again, you buy a house, it's so exciting. That monthly payment is with you every month. Like it's a big deal, and understanding your budget and all of that, but also understanding that's a big friction point. Like that's a big friction point. So it's cool, like what Aaron and I have been able to do because they recognize that naturally, so they're able to speak to that with clients
Hmm.
and help provide that data. I guess like here's a house, so y'all like it, okay, well, and he already kind of knows the monthly payment. That's very accurate because I'm running the numbers behind the scenes. So it just helps recognize like that could be a friction point, but let's go ahead and get that data there so they can make a real time decision and factor that in. And it's just,
Yeah.
I think it just really helps people not get hung up and just get the information they need to make a good decision while they're there and looking at the house. But there's so many people that you just get a contract and it's like, oh, they're under contract.
Yeah.
They didn't even tell me. I guess they are okay with where the numbers are at. But
Do you ever
I
have
don't know.
people like the most terrifying thing? I mean, we've got horror stories and with the red flags everybody talks about on social media now. What's your red flag? Do you ever get the hey, I don't have a pre-approval. Hey, Brian, I got this contract. Here's the client. Can you issue a pre-approval for them? And they haven't even run an app. They haven't ever talked to you. They've just submitted an offer, got it accepted before they even came to you. Like that's got to be terrifying.
Yeah,
Because guess
yeah,
what?
it
Now
happens a
you're the
lot.
bearer of bad news. Now you have to go no or yes.
Yeah.
It's there's no wiggle room.
No, it's that happens a lot. It doesn't scare me at all because it's not my um like if it falls through, it's not my fault because I never talked to them. If
Yeah.
if they were my client and that contract falls through, but they were my client and I allowed them to get under contract, that's 100% mine to own and
Yep.
no one else's to own. But yeah, when they come to me and they're already under contract, it's a little less pressure, but I'm going to get it done and do
Yeah.
everything I can to get it done. But it's a little like, all right, well, I hope we can make it work.
Yeah.
You're sitting there pulling credit, waiting for the credit scores to come in. Like, all right, we'll see.
Cart before the horse. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah, we've talked
when
about
it happens,
synergy a lot, and it's I can tell you as an agent when we're having to work with people that are lenders that are outside of Brian and his team at Primis, the communication just isn't there. There's no synergy. There's no. It's a whole different experience for people. And not saying that not all lenders, not all agents, not everybody's always created equal, but there are that experience if you don't have all the pieces clicking and the communication and stuff like that. Like one just closed yesterday and the client was just ecstatic, but he had like zero expectations. He came with a lender that he had used on a previous purchase like 15 years ago, and like we heard nothing from the lender start to finish other than, yeah, here's your pre-approval. And it was, I don't know, it was a different experience. I don't know, I just think real estate should be a
yeah,
lot
it's
more
different.
fun. I need more
And
clarity when
when
it
it,
comes to stuff. So
yeah,
sorry. So we've gone out, we've shown homes, we're buying within our price point. So let's say, hey, I got a $400,000 approval, Brian. Do I have to spend all that?
yes, no, no. And I was just telling someone this the other day, and I think this is really it's on the lender. And there's some lenders that are max pre-approval lenders where not to call people out, but yeah, that some people are like, "Oh, I can take you all the way up to 600K," and it's like, okay, but let's hit pause. Do they actually need to spend that? Because some people are still learning and they don't really know, and they when they hear a professional
Yeah.
lender say and make it sound okay that they can spend 600K, all of a sudden they think it's okay to spend 600K. So I recognize that there's a lot of weight behind my pre-approval, and I want to protect people.
Yeah.
So I can be a little bit conservative, and I'm big into budgets, and so I like to go, okay, well, where do you want your monthly payment? Like, what's that look like? Okay, well, that's going to be this purchase price. It looks like I can take that pre-approval a lot higher, but that monthly payment's going to go way higher. So what does that look like? So that's kind of how I take the conversation, is focus kind of on their budget, and I try to see and ask questions to determine if they've even had budget conversations,
Yeah.
if they even know where they want their monthly payment, or at least where is their current rent, and where what monthly payment's just too high. And I let that tell me, because then before I even tell them the pre-approval, I already know like they're gonna feel pain if we go this high. And the last thing I want, and I know Aaron's the same, which is
Yeah.
why I love working with Aaron and his team. But the last thing we want is people to regret
Well,
buying a house. It's not what we want. And I know for me on the numbers side, I think it's my responsibility to have the proper conversations and ask the right questions to get people thinking and understanding, like, okay, I probably do need to stay here with my budget. So
yeah. Well, like
that's kind
Cassandra,
of a long-winded answer, but
the I cannot confirm nor deny that you and I may have had conversations where going, "Hey, can we get this client to this price point? They really want to buy it. Let's say it's $550,000." And you go, "I can get them there and I can get them pre-approved for that, but Aaron, I really need you to have a conversation with them. They're shopping outside their means. I don't know at that price point that they would be able to eat and buy groceries every month." So sometimes we
mhm,
have to just help direct people. And Cassandra and I have talked about it a lot. And I know you and I have talked about it, is, having the ability to utilize our skill sets to help individuals that don't have those skill sets, and talking budget
mhm,
questions. And there's so many people that have come to us that go, they don't have any clue what a budget is. What do you mean what a budget is? Like, I pay
yeah,
the rent. The rent is what the rent is. That's what I pay. So, and there's so many more factors into of owning a home than it is just making the mortgage payment. So,
right.
um,
And I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back, but if you're going to work with anyone, I want to work with people that have my best interest in mind
mhm,
and do not care if we do a deal with them or not. Like, they're not desperate for a deal. They're not going to just try to force a deal out of nowhere.
right.
They really have my best interest in mind, and I just think we try to do that. We try to operate in that way and really take care of people, which I'm proud of, and I'm proud to do that
Well, and it's
with
not
Aaron.
everybody does that, especially as lenders. We talked about, housing market crash. What caused our housing market crash is everybody selling these adjustable rate mortgages and balloon payments and all these types of things, and then everything bubbled and popped. And
Hmm.
you have a certain sense of responsibility to that, and
Hmm.
and just making sure that you're helping guide people through stuff and not just selling them something to line your pocketbook.
Right.
So
I
we
agree.
appreciate that. So we're looking at homes. We found it. We wrote an offer. We're structuring an offer. Let's even back up a little bit. We're structuring an offer on a home. We're working side by side with you. Hey, what do we need? Do we need closing costs? So on and so forth. How can we structure this offer the best that we need? Do we need to ask for additional seller concessions so that we can do a rate buy down, and get them into a better monthly payment? There's a lot of factors that come into stuff when structuring that offer. Um, so let's say we've submitted the offer, we've got our pre-approval letter, we've submitted it with it, we're in love with the house, um, and I call you, Brian, and I go, "Hey, we're under contract. We got a house." We send you over the purchase and sale agreement. Clients are stoked and excited. They're paying their earnest money.
Hmm.
Um, and then what's happening lending wise?
You're approved, and you're going to buy the house the next day. No,
Yeah.
we have a few steps here, and I tell people, look, this can be like flying on an airplane. The flight can go great. There could still be turbulence.
Yep.
That just means the mortgage process, and I try to get people laughing. I'm like, buying a house is exciting. If I'm honest, one of the worst parts is probably the mortgage process, because we've got to get some
I
documentation
can
and
argue that. Just there's other
yeah,
sides that are scary, but yeah.
right. But I've got to get some extra pay stubs, and we've got to document some things, because look, we're about to give you. Imagine someone writing a check for $300,000 or for $400,000.
Yeah.
The bank is cutting you that check, and they can't just give it to you without, number one, confirming the collateral is worth what it's worth. So that's where we order the appraisal and all of that. And then they also want to make sure that the borrower who is going to be paying for the loan is not going to just not make their monthly payments one day and cost the bank a lot of money. So anyways, we have to run through underwriting and underwrite the file. We order the appraisal. And then we officially get conditionally approved. It's pretty much always going to be conditionally approved, just because of a few minor items that you're always going to need, like the appraisal might not be in yet. We may need an extra bank statement or pay stub. So that's kind of what that looks like. So you get the contract, and you possibly, depending on how much time has gone on, you get some updated docs again, submit the file, you get it through underwriting, you get conditionally approved. In the meantime, the appraisal is happening. It takes a week or two for an appraisal to come back. And then once you're conditionally approved, you finalize those final items and get cleared to close. And then you buy the house. So
So
that's a big picture.
big question everybody asks: who pays for the appraisal, and what should they set aside for that?
Yeah, so the borrower would pay that, unless closing costs are paid for by the seller. So in that case, then that would kind of fall under the seller pays or seller concessions.
Okay.
Typically 600, 650, somewhere in there
Yeah.
is how much that runs. And again, the appraisal is just going to tell us the value of the home, but it's also going to tell us two things: is it as is or subject to? As is means the house is in great condition, nothing needs to be fixed, and the value is X.
Yeah.
Or it'll be the value is X, but it's subject to, and it's subject to it's missing a window, or there's a hole in the roof, or
Right.
it's going to be substantial things. It's not going to be aesthetics, like someone has tack holes in the wall because they had a picture on the wall. It's not going to be that. It's going to be things that affect the integrity of the home, like cracks, like major cracks, or again, broken windows.
Missing
Uh,
HVAC.
yeah, missing HVAC,
That was a recent
water
one.
heater
Yeah.
not working. But yeah, we just had one that appraised $95,000 short. It was missing some HVAC, and
The whole
anyways,
upstairs didn't have
yeah,
permanent heating and cooling.
and it was remedied, and appraisal was updated, and we made up the 95K. So
You know,
um,
yeah, because
So,
we
anyways, there's always solutions, and there's always things that happen. But that's, again, big picture of what that process looks like. That's where the heavy lifting in the lending world happens. Once you get under contract, that's when we run through underwriting again, and we order the appraisal, and that's where most of the work happens there. And it's typically, you could call it 30 days, but you can close as quickly as 8 days. So I mean, you can move pretty quick if you absolutely have to, but
right.
typically I would say 30 days is the average turn time
Yep.
for most.
Yep. So many clients come to us and they go, "Well, do I have to get and typically this comes up in when we're writing an offer. Do I have to get an inspection? I'm already getting an appraisal. Aren't they going to tell me what's wrong with the house?"
Mm.
And that's such a misconception, but it's a very common misconception. So
Mhm.
the appraiser's going out there and looking at things like you said there that add value. Is the home the correct size? Is it conditioned living space, meaning heating and cooled? What other things? They're looking for safety things.
Mhm.
If it's a government backed loan, VA, FHA, USDA, all those types of things, the appraiser's looking for things that are, above board to make sure that being a government backed loan, that it's a good representation in a safe home, so that we're putting people in those types of homes. So common things that are called out with those are, handrails, um, moisture damage, things like that. But the appraiser is not
Mhm.
going to go crawl the crawl space. He's going to verify that there's insulation in the attic, but he's not going to
Right.
go through there and look at those things. He'll make sure that it appears that there's a good roof on it, but he's not going to get up
Mhm.
there and inspect the roof. So
Mhm.
once we have that out, so as you're working through these other things and you're submitting things to underwriting and you're getting these additional documents and you're ordering the appraisal, we're going through things such as the home inspection. Home inspection is we get our earnest money paid. Earnest money is typically the very first thing that we take care of. Usually it's done within 3 to 5 days of getting a bound contract. And earnest money, if you're not aware, is um, it's kind of like good faith money. So that money comes back to you if for some reason, due to one of your contingencies, typically home inspection or finance, meaning the home didn't appraise for some reason, something happened and they found out you were lying and you didn't get your loan, all those types of things. you'll be able to get that earnest money back. Earnest money varies just depending on what you negotiate into your contract. The more money, earnest money you put down, the better, the more faith that they have in you being serious about purchasing the home. So that money's paid to the title company, and the title company will hold that in an escrow account, and it will go towards your overall cost. So let's say if you have down payment, it'll go towards that. And let's say you have nothing. I have zero down payment. I have zero closing costs. We hit the closing table. You sign on the dotted line. The title company is going to hand you a check back for your earnest money. So, so you don't lose anything when it comes to that. If you fall out of contract for something other than that, typically it's buyer's remorse. You're going to lose your earnest money.
Mhm.
Home inspection. Our current home inspection rates are $375. They vary anywhere from $375 to $500, $600. I've seen stuff like that. And the home inspector is going to come out and do what we call a general home inspection. During a general home inspection, they're going to go through the home top to bottom. Some of them will get on the roof. Some of them use technology like drones and things like that to go check out the roof. They look for water leaks. Our home inspector, looks for missing screws in door jambs. They go through everything. They open every door. They open every cabinet. They look for safety features. Um, they look for broken glass. They do it all. If things come into specialty inspections, they may call things out going, hey, I need a termite. You might look into having a termite inspection done. That's very common. Hey, I found termite tubes in here. Or there's presence of mold on floorboards, floor joists in the crawl space. You might want to have somebody look at that. HVAC. The home inspector is typically going to test to go, is it heating? Is it cooling? He's not going to check, is it working correctly? Because he's not going to open it up. But if there is a heating and cooling issue, we probably need to get an HVAC company out there to go check it. So we go through all these things. So there's specialty inspections. Specialty inspections would include things like plumbing, heating and air, roof inspection, foundation. We get engineers involved. I had one today that there was foundation repairs made to a home, and we got a letter from the engineer stating that this is what was supposed to be done, and he signed off and said that it was done correctly. So that would be a specialty foundation inspection. And septic inspections, that's another thing too. If you have a septic inspection, just pay to have it pumped out while you're there. It's good faith.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost much more to have it pumped out while the technician's out there. Um, then you can fill the tank with your own crap. Sorry. So inspections, things like that. So Brian's working on his thing. We're working on our thing. You're working with both of us at this point, and we're moving through the process. Hey, we've passed inspections. We've passed appraisals back. It made value. Or we've had to negotiate repairs, or the appraisal come back, like you said, subject to, and we have to negotiate putting in a heating and air system in an attic space because it doesn't have a permanent heating and air space, heating and air to that 900 extra square feet up there. So once we get through all that, then the process moves through. So you talked about underwriter. Can you tell me what an underwriter is, Brian? What is that? Is that somebody else? Like, who's the underwriter?
No. Yeah, so that's a physical person. They underwrite the file. Um, and again, I mentioned AUS, automated underwriting system. So we use that as well. So that's a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. So that's something that all banks use. So we're still going to get a approval, an approve eligible, technically in some
Mm-hmm.
cases. So we still use that. That's important, and the underwriter uses that. But the underwriter is an actual person, and they underwrite the file for the bank, just again to tie the collateral and the borrower who's going to be making the payments. They're just tying all this together so that ultimately they can say, okay, we trust this person and we trust this house. We trust this situation, and here's your money. Here's your 400 grand or your 300 grand.
Yep.
So underwriting again it's going to feel like an audit. We're going to get all of your documentation. Sometimes it's going to feel like we're getting too much. But again, keep in mind we're coming out of 08, 09 where Aaron mentioned this, the housing market blew up because of bad lending practices. So now we're back to doing what we need to do, and document and make sure we're not just handing out loans to anyone and everyone.
Right.
So the physical underwriter, that's what their job is to underwrite the file and to review pay stubs, bank statements, everything. And they're going to scrutinize everything again to make sure they know that they can trust that file
Yeah.
and that borrower and that house. And that's ultimately what an underwriter does.
So we're going through this whole process, and we're having home inspections done and all these things, but credit's really good at this point. Um, what what can I and can't I do during this process in my life? We got a client that's leaving on a cruise tomorrow. Can you go on a cruise, Brian?
Wow. I mean, technically, and people do this all the time. I have a client that's in Paris. And yet, I mean, you can go on a cruise, but it's and maybe it's on us sometimes, and maybe we could set better expectations. But we do on the front end. We go, look, you're buying a house, so the next 30 days is a big deal. And when we ask you for something, we need that
Yeah.
maybe within 24 hours. So if you go on a cruise, you may put your closing date in jeopardy.
Yep.
But just at least make sure you can still get us stuff
Is there anything I
because you
should
can't check
avoid
out.
doing on that cruise? Like, I'm just gonna put this whole cruise and everything on my credit card. Is that all right?
Yeah, you can't do that. So when it comes to your credit cards, you don't want to do that.
And
You
how do
can use them a
why
little bit,
wouldn't I
but
do that? Like, how's that gonna impact me buying a house?
yeah, so your DTI, your debt to income ratio means everything, and credit cards and all that impact your credit. And I have people, they want to buy a refrigerator and they want to do these things and they want to finance it. That would be a brand new trade line. That would be
Yeah.
a brand new line of credit, which will then affect your credit scores. It could also affect your debt load and your debt to income ratio, which could potentially disqualify you from buying the house.
So I shouldn't
Um,
go over to Ashley's Furniture and open up a new credit card and buy all my new furniture because I'm closing on Friday.
yeah, probably not. No. So, and we
Um,
tell we
but I
tell
really
people
wanna
that.
take a new car to closing, and I want my wife to feel special.
I
No?
know, and I've had someone do that, but no. To be clear, no. You're not buying a car. You're not
This is the
financing
the
all.
most serious you've been this entire video, Brian. Like, you're
I
telling me
know.
this happens.
It does. No, I'm speaking from pain, from
Yeah.
experience, and I think people just get excited, even though we have emails, even though we've had conversations that say not to do these things. I think out of habit, people just forget. Like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, we're just about cleared to close, but we're not closed yet. And guess what? There's things that happen. Like we don't pull your credit again, but we essentially do another soft touch essentially right before closing. So like you see everything that's brand new, and a lot of times we get alerted when there's something brand new. So it's nothing can get by us.
Yeah.
um and it can, and I've had people. I had a guy buy a car, and he was a veteran. You have to be married to have your spouse on the loan. So he bought a car, and I said, and I'm just a solutions person. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but I'm a solution person. So it's like, all right, here we are. You don't qualify because you bought the car. So sell the car, get rid of the car, or you can go to the courthouse and get married, and I can count her income, and
Most
you can technically
extreme
do that.
solution I've ever heard in my life.
Well, it's a solution, and guess what? They went to the courthouse, and I added her income. So we will find a solution, but just keep in mind, like
That's my
you
new
can't
favorite
make those
story, by the way.
decisions.
Favorite story, the hands down now. New favorite.
Yeah, that legitimately happened.
We're gonna do a coffee table
Yeah,
book soon, just so you're aware.
yeah. So yeah, you can't make those decisions unless you just really want to test your loan officer.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, don't make major life decisions outside of buying the house until later, until after you buy the house.
So we talked
So,
about closing. We hadn't gotten there yet. So closing's typically done with a title company. Title
mhm.
has been working on this. They're usually the quietest throughout the whole process, unless something's really major found. But they're doing title searches. They're looking to make sure that they can issue a title policy, a warranty deed on this to make sure that the people that are selling it, in fact, own it, and that they have the exclusive right to sell it to you. And they will take care of all your deed paperwork and all those types of things and issue an insurance policy to you. in case, Jim Bob comes out of the woodwork, 10 years from now and goes, "Hey, that was my auntie's house. It was actually given to me in the will." Um, then that insurance policy would pay Jim Bob off so that you don't lose your house because he would have a right to claim on it.
Mhm. Now let me interject real quick
Yeah.
because everyone always asks because there's a buyer's title insurance line item.
Yep.
It's one of the few that says optional, so you don't have to add it. But what Aaron just said is everything to do with the buyer's title insurance policy. So
Hmm.
you don't pay for that and you don't have it. Old Jim Bob could possibly come take you to court and get his house back.
Yep.
Um, so that's what that
And
is.
guess what? You still owe the bank.
Yeah.
You still owe the bank. So title's working on all that for you. Title's typically they're also the one that you paid your earnest money to, in most cases. That's who we have all of our clients pay it to. And then they're going to sign the final paperwork with you. They're the holder of the money. So they're doing all the documents, everything's signed. They send the documents to Primis Mortgage, and Primis looks at it and goes, "Yep, sounds good." Primis wires them the money. They hold it in their bank account, and they make sure that the seller has verified all their documents and all that type of stuff. They verify everything, and then they disperse all the funds, including earnest money where it needs to go to, either applied towards the transaction or back to you. Um, Agent commissions, all those types of things. They disperse everything to all said parties on how it needs to be. Um, so yeah, it's then you bought a house, and then we jump up and down
Uh,
for joy, and
yeah.
Brian starts sending you a series of emails. Congratulations. I hope it was fun.
Yeah.
Um, all this, Cassandra and I are sending you emails or sending you a text message. Hey, please leave us a review.
Mhm.
Um, all that fun stuff. And then you get to go move into your house.
Uh,
The great thing in Tennessee, we currently don't have a cooling off period, like some other states. So it'll record almost same day in most areas in Tennessee versus some other states it's like a 3 day, you know, recording timeline and all that stuff and right to rescission and all that stuff. So we don't have all that rigmarole. I've used that term
we
several
take
times today.
you'll technically have that with a refinance in Tennessee. So
Okay,
if
good.
and when you refinance, there's a 3-day rescission period.
So
So that means you can go to the closing table and then it does not record. It would not fund until after that 3 days, which means you could technically back out if you wanted to. But that's only refinances. You don't have that on the purchase side.
see, that's good. It's good information to
Yep.
have. So it's a pretty simple process. There's a lot of do's and don'ts. How I try to explain it to people is I ask them, like, could you go out and go buy a car today? And they're like, yeah, I can go to the dealership and go buy a car. We have to realize that buying a home is less of a risk for a financial institution like a bank or a mortgage company because you're purchasing an asset and not a liability. And having assets in your life, assets that you can leverage, assets that are growing in equity and not costing you money. They may cost you money, but real estate, time over time is increased exponentially past anything that it's costing you. As long as you make a good purchase, of course. But even if you sat on it, like my dad always says, you don't lose money unless you sell it. So, so working on those things and making sure that you're making a good financial purchase. You talked about refinances, Brian, right before we wrap up here. When's a good time to refinance your home? Like what's a life event that you would go to refinance your home? You've had somebody reach out to you that purchased a home with us, financed with you, saw rates drop 6 months
Hmm.
later and went, "Hey Brian, do you think we should refinance?"
Hmm.
When's a
Yeah,
good
there's
time? When should
no.
they make that call?
Yeah, they need to make. You can make that call whenever you want. And again, that's why Aaron and we view this as a partnership. Just like you have a financial advisor, just like you have an accountant in your corner at all times. You We want you to always reach out to us, Aaron included, after you purchase.
Hmm.
We want to be a soundboard for you. If that's a good term. So again, there's 100 different reasons why you may need to refinance or may not need to refinance, and I'll tell you, it doesn't really make sense. But at the same time, it may make sense to you. So half the time, I present the numbers and let the numbers speak for themselves, and go, okay, well, this is where you're at. This is where we could get the interest rate, or this is maybe you could take some cash out because some people want to consolidate debt,
Hmm.
some people want to build a pool. Some people just want to lower their interest rate. There's a lot of reasons to refinance, and it's as simple as just sending me an email or text,
Don't
and then we can
refinance
hop
and
on
go on a
the
cruise
phone.
with the money though. Don't go on vacation with it. That's a bad financial decision.
No,
If I give you any financial
no,
advice, don't pull money out of an asset to pay for a liability.
yeah,
No.
and that is a separate conversation, and I try not to get too opinionated, but I agree with that 100%. I'm fairly conservative. I am a big believer that you know every dollar I make, it's just that takes some effort to make, and I want that dollar to still be with me and hopefully multiply.
Yeah.
And buying a liability, and that might not be the best option to grow your money and protect yourself in the future.
Yep.
But not trying to be your parents, but
But, Cassandra and I have pulled money out of a home in the past to, buy additional real estate and, commercial
Mhm,
opportunities and, put money into our
mhm,
businesses and things like that. Like you said, it would grow. So I think that'd be a great
mhm.
conversation for future, talking about how you can pull money out of your home to fund other investment opportunities.
Right.
Because your home's always going to catch up to it. Um,
Right, and not everyone has the appetite for that, but I've also pulled equity out for an investment
yep.
opportunity, as well, and that's how a lot of people, you probably know people that, man, how did they buy that rental? How did they buy another rental? Well, if you probably were able to look closer, they're probably leveraging equity
Hmm.
on some of those properties, so you can actually, if you crunch the numbers and it pencils out and you're responsible, you can leverage some of these houses to buy more and buy another rental
Yeah.
or something like that. So that's definitely another conversation where you can get really creative. And again, not everyone has the appetite for that, but a lot of investors, they probably do that if you were to have a
Yep.
honest conversation with
100%. Well, Brian, we're gonna have to talk about refinances here in the future. I've got some equity in my home, and I have my eye on a baseball card on eBay right now that is eating me alive. So,
them. Is it old
Brian, I
Pete?
appreciate having you on today. It's been a
Hmm.
lot of fun. Don't forget, you can get your Pirates hook at the secondhand store. And hopefully, this given some insight. Don't hesitate, guys, to reach out and talk to Brian or anybody on our team about anything you've heard today. If you need further clarification, we don't bite. Um, it should be a fun process. We love talking about real estate. Love talking about lending. Um, have a good agent. Do research. Have a good lender. Do your research. You have the right to that. So don't cut
Hmm.
yourself short. So Brian,
Hmm.
again, appreciate you having here today. Premise and yourself and your family are always assets to ours, and we look forward to continuing doing business. So thanks for your insight
Yeah,
today.
thank you for having me. Lovely conversation. Always enjoy it. So appreciate you and your team a ton. So thank you again for today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. You have a good week.